Hi everyone, Cheryl Hope back here, talking about the cult I left, named the Exclusive Brethren, or what it's now known as the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. This is a follow-up post regarding the letter that was recently distributed amongst the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church at their care meeting at the beginning of July. And I wanted to show you that it wasn't really a letter that was anything new. This letter that I have in behind me was written in 2003 by Bruce Hales, and actually signed by Bruce Hales. I'll show you at the end, the very end, it says Bruce D. Hales. And this letter was in reference to things that were being seen and happening at their fellowship meeting, 3-day meetings. So these meetings are meetings that people from all over the world would locate to a certain city or town, and they would do their normal thing that they always do, preachings and readings inside their church services. And there was a lot of abnormal behavior for the PBCC that was going on, and it was brought to the attention and written up in a letter by Bruce Hales, read out at every city and town globally so that the matters could be dealt with. So what I want to do is I just want to read to you a little bit of this. There's too much in here for me to read the entire thing. So I'm just going to read a short excerpt from it. Whilst all the great leaders have exercised a gracious and forbearing disposition to the saints, none of them have lowered the standard to accommodate worldliness in any shape or form. And most of us that see through this know that that's a bunch of bullshit. People in the hierarchy at the top, they pretty much get to do whatever they want, always have, and until this thing crumbles, probably always will. Certain unacceptable features based on irrefutable witness and universal reports are as follows. So this is the list. Excessive drinking, alcohol at meeting rooms and precincts. So that's nothing new. We have had just recent reports from OSG, One School Global Teachers, that's their school that they have now, where they found alcohol in kids' water bottles in junior high. Cameras, recording equipment at meeting rooms, worldly dress. So when we say the term worldly means outsiders. So anybody who is not inside there are known as worldly people. And so when they discuss anything worldly, it means anything that is outside of them. So worldly dress, example, exposed midriffs, faded jeans, t-shirts, visible words and signs, short skirts. Casual dress, example, no stockings, exposed thighs, necklaces. So for females, you had to wear stockings all the time. They were very hot and uncomfortable. Unsuitable hairstyles, example, sideburns and long hair, brothers, and hair tinting. So like you weren't allowed to have sideburns. That was an absolute no, and no long hair. Attending venues of worldly entertainment, including restaurants. Large gatherings of young people at brethren's houses and recreational places. So that's referencing to special friendships. You're not allowed to hang around with the same people all the time. No, it's like that's considered a special friendship. One of the reasons why I had one of my biggest priestly visits was because I had special friendships, and most of my priestly visits were over that. Pre-recorded music, CDs, digital equipment, mobile phones, corrupt language and talk, rearrangement of predetermined travel schedules to accommodate special friendships and substandard links. So again, that's where they would have been hanging around with the same people more than they should have. They don't allow you to make those kinds of connections. And when they refer to rearrangement of predetermined travel schedules, so when you go to another, they call it a locality, which is another city or town, you are placed at other people's houses. And on Sundays, they have in between meetings, they have these what's called breaks, and it's like you get allocated to another place. So obviously, if someone didn't want to go somewhere, they were obviously rerouting where they were going because they wanted to hang out with somebody else. What a terrible sin, hey? In addition to the above, there have been substantial reports of unsuitable behavior and liaisons between younger brethren, including illicit conduct, drugs, and physical contact that even the world regards as unacceptable and dangerous. So, I mean, I was aware of a lot of drugs that was happening in there, and was one of the reasons why I called up my parents when I finally came out to them with what happened to me. We actually ended up having a really big fight. And I was trying to get through to them that the drugs that was happening inside there was way worse than what I had ever been exposed to since leaving, and they would have nothing to do with it. And it ended up it was an very escalated conversation. I ended up just screaming at them with what had happened to me. And where they mean the physical contact. So obviously I can only assume that this was probably people who were starting to like each other, say boyfriend, girlfriend, people were getting to know each other. You're not allowed to hold hands. You're not allowed to be in those kinds of a presence without a chaperone or somebody that was older. So with this, when it was read out, everybody had to agree to it by saying amen after. And I think it's just absolutely absurd to the extent that they go with pulling back the rules again. So a lot of rules were brought in the 60s that were very different from pre that. In the 60s, it was JT Jr. that was the lead. And he was the one that really started changing all the rules. He brought in the separation rule. He didn't allow, everybody had to get rid of their pets. There was just a lot of things that changed then. But the thing was JT Jr. himself was a lover of women. And some of the stuff that came out of his mouth would shock you. He really opened up the platform for, I believe, in my opinion, after he was caught in bed with somebody's wife, there was this huge split that happened. And the people that stayed became this very closed sex called the exclusive brethren. And even if they didn't believe in it and stayed in it, I really believe that this all opened up a channel for this spousal abuse to happen, the sexual abuse, the pedophilia, because in their mind, it was like, well, if this leader can get away with it, I can get away with it. And he was a drunk. He was an absolute drunk. The alcohol is rife in there. So for Bruce Hales, who loves his alcohol and taking his breaks even from the meeting, I mean, he doesn't go to all the meetings. For him to set out rules like this is just so full of hypocrisy. And I think the biggest point that I wanted to make out in this is that how strict these people are. And yet we cannot get the coverage that we need on this group. It just needs its exposure. So I'm really hoping that those of you that watch this can share this, talk about this, and really get the knowledge out there about the exclusive brethren and the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church.